Jacinta Margaret Consencio. I turned 60 in February this year. I'm a part-time Kumon teacher plus homemaker plus caregiver. But we don't call it caregiver in Dementia Association, we call ourselves care partners. So we grew up in a very simple kampung life, most of us. My mom was very hardworking in the sense that she provided this type of food for us, chickens, ducks, and then we even grew our own vegetables. She made sure that we were always together. After secondary 4, I was given the option. My brother told me, you want to go to college? Private, even you want to go private, you can go private also, I'll pay for you. Yeah, I just said, I don't want, I want to go to work. I want to be like all those office girls. I want to go to work and make some kind of career for myself. I joined Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank. I worked my way up from there until I became a supervisor after 8 years. And after another 3 or 4 years, I became a bank officer. If you ask my staff that were under me, they will always tell you, Jacinta is very good in social activities, okay? She makes us all very happy. But when it comes to work, she's very fierce. Work is work. Actually, it was in my stint in Hong Kong Bank where I worked for 15 years. I met my husband, Rodney, and that was in 1985. And we got married in 1991. So we dated for 6 years before we actually got married. And at the time when I left the bank, I was 3 years married. I had 2 children. Luke, my first son, he was born in 1994. He was everything that we hoped for. After Luke, 18 months later, I had Timothy. Timothy, who was my special little angel. So when Timothy came along, all I knew was that he started to throw fits in the nursery after giving birth to him, and he was put in ICU straight away in an incubator. And the doctor explained to me that Timothy actually was born with some brain abnormalities. He's diagnosed as having cerebral palsy. At that point in time, he was getting seizures like 9 times a day, 10 times a day, non-stop. Before I went back to work, I remember I asked my mom to help me look after him. And she used to call me up every time at work, tell me, I can't look after him, He's not drinking. This is not natural, And sometimes she would say, I don't know whether she meant it or not. She used to describe him to her friends. He's born retarded, poor thing, Then I used to get so angry, so angry, Then I said, Mommy, one more time you say retarded, you're not allowed to come to this house anymore. I said, he's not retarded. He's just mentally challenged. Don't ever use that word in front of me, okay? Because I'm dealing with just having given birth and then also having this child who has so many special needs which I completely don't understand. Nobody talks to you about their children who has special needs, So it was such a big change in my life, It was a big eye-opener. So I always say that Timothy being born to me, given to me like this, was a game changer. It made me grow up very fast, and it made me learn about things very fast. I remember one day, my husband actually telling me, you know what, this baby only responds to you, When you are home and you are with him, you hold him and you cuddle him, there is no seizure, and there's no problem. So it was a big choice, Then Uncle Tony told me, said, I think you should quit. So I made that decision to leave. That time was my first time being a caregiver. And I think that was the best years. We breezed through like 14, 15 years with Timothy. I was very determined to give him, because with all his special needs, to give him the best life possible. I brought him into this world, and I want him to have everything that his brother had. All that chance, all that opportunity. Even though he can't see, he can only hear, but he can't express himself. I know he was very happy. going to all doctor's visits left me in a very bad mood. Every time I went to the doctor, I was very emotionally drained. I had doctors tell me he's basically a vegetable. He is not a vegetable, no. He is a knowing person, you know. He knows you. And he knows me very, very particularly, you know. Sometimes I'll try and sneak in the room, you know, and I'll crawl down low, you know. Even though he cannot see me, I'll crawl down low by the bed, you know, and go to the bathroom. He's already perked up, you know, and he's like laughing, you know, starts laughing and giggling, you know, and I'll say, you know, I'm here. You know, it's so funny, you know, he how in tune he was to me. And I always say, you know, when he looks at me, he was actually looking at me with eyes that cannot see. Timothy's last year with us was in 2012. And I remember the last doctor's visit, she told us that, you know, he's possibly going to stop breathing one of these days. And he was already 16 years old. It was just after his birthday. It was a miserable life, you know, being in hospital, you know. They put him down as in palliative care. That means he was already on his way to his last moments. So they told me we have to spend a lot of time with him. So I remember I used to stay up at night with him, you know, lying with him on the bed, and we would listen to gospel music. And he would love the gospel music, you know, we would listen. And then Timothy never wanted to sleep. He was always awake. He's listening to something, listening to me breathing. I remember it was just a time of closeness. At that time, Uncle Tony was distant, you know, because he was dealing with his own sadness. I told Tony, I said, Timothy is ready to go home. He assumed that I said home as to coming home to the house. And then I said, no, he's getting ready to go home to the Lord. He wants to go home to heaven, you know. And he was very angry with me. I remember he was very angry with me, and he didn't want to hear this reasoning that I gave, you know, because I was so in tune with him. I knew, you know, just looking at him, I knew that he wanted that peace of mind, you know. He wanted to go home. I remember the day he passed away, you know. The nurse told me, said, he's a strong boy, he can fight it. She told me. I told her, I said, no, he's tired. You can see there is no more life in his eyes. There's no more sparkle in his eye, you know. I said, he will leave me tomorrow. I remember at about 5 something, I was playing some music, you know, then we were talking, they were hugging each other, then I was singing him his favorite song, You're My Sunshine, you know, I was singing to him. And then there was silence. The loud breathing stopped. And there was silence, and I looked at him, his eyes were open. And I said, you're gone, baby. I said, go to Jesus, I told him. No, I just kissed him on the forehead, you know. And I called out to Uncle Tony. He was at home. I said, come here quickly. Then I asked him, can you please check his pulse? Yeah, he's gone. You know? So the 3 of us like huddled together and we hugged, you know. So I called Luke, and Luke came back. He said he ran all the way back, and when he reached home, the first thing he did was go over his brother, and he said, Titi, why did you wait for me? Why did you wait for me? So I remember I was housebound for 2 years because not that I didn't want to go out, I felt safe at home, I felt comfortable at home. I just didn't want to be out and about with anybody. All this while, Uncle Tony has been working up to the time when he retired himself. He's been working as a safety coordinator in construction sites. When I saw him behaving strangely was he started to get me to do all his office work at home, anything to do with writing, counting. He would bring home and ask me to write. Or sometimes he would call me up on the phone and say, hey, what number comes after 106? Then I say, after 6 comes what number? Then he don't know. Then after that I tell him, 107. Then after that, I didn't think anything about it because it's like suddenly you got like a mental block, you can't remember, right? So I just leave it as that. So I never figured out anything because to me he's normal, but he started to become very isolated. He didn't want to socialize with his friends, and I noticed that his conversations were very short. He used to talk and laugh and joke like non-stop, he can go on and on, got so much of conversation to carry. Then now it's just one word. So when we went into the doctor told me, first thing the doctor asked him, what is your date of birth? And he couldn't remember already. So the doctor said there's something wrong, We went for the CT scan appointment, then about a month or so later we had the results. So the doctor said, oh, we have good news and bad news. Then I said, okay, just give me whatever it is like, He said, good news, no stroke. Then he said, bad news, he has Alzheimer's. In my head it's like, I could take everything, but hearing this, it was like giving me a death sentence, I look at him and he looked at me, then we were just sending like ESP to each other, like, okay, what's going on, So we waited to get out of there. Then when I came home, I remember, I asked him, how you feel? My first thought was to ask him, to think what he says, I said, do you understand what the doctor said? He said, yes. Then I said, how do you feel? Very angry. So I'm very angry. Why this happened to me? Why is this happening to me? So nice. Oh, look. The monitor lizard there on the floor there, he's walking. Yeah, we can sit down here. The doctor's diagnosis sealed it, I had a clear conscience about what it was, But actually it was very upsetting. When I could digest everything on my own, right? It's like losing someone without actually losing them physically. And now I have to watch him lose himself right before my eyes. I'm actually watching him go before, right before my eyes. Every single day, a part of him is gone. He doesn't remember our dating life, our life together. We got so much of history. We dated for 6 years, then we got married. Now it's 31 years, and even like new memories you make, he can't remember any of them. Our first date, do you remember our first date? We went to see movies. We scared I will hit you. We went to see movies. We went to see Back to the Future. That time it just came out. Then after that, he said, let's go to East Coast Park. And there was this drain between the McDonald's and the park, So to cross the drain, you need to jump over the drain. He crossed over. Then after that, he told me, come on. Then I said, give me your hand and help me across. He said, yeah, you're so sissy, he shouted at me. Yes, you did. I was so angry with him. From then on, we were like inseparable. Every time, he's either calling or we are going out. Yeah, we lived first in Ang Mo Kio, which was a very nice big house. Sometimes Saturdays, Sundays, we didn't know what to do with ourselves, right? He would take out like karaoke, he'll take out his songbook and then we'll put on the Laserdisc on the TV. Then the music will come on and then he will stand there and he'll start singing all the songs in the living room. You used to do that in front of the TV and we laugh so much, He was entertaining me so that we won't be bored. Sad to say, it's just that he can't remember who I am. He can't remember my name. He can't remember his son's name. It's like you are living your life so lonely, on your own, that kind of thing, And I do talk to my support group, and I tell them, I say, sometimes I feel I've not done enough. And they told me, it's going to be like that. You just have to accept it, you know. You just have to take it one step at a time. You've done as much as you can. Don't say you didn't do enough. I always want to think about his happiness, that he's happy. You know, they still feel, they still know. So you don't give up on them so easily, because we are both partners in this adventure, you know. And we take it that every day is a new day, one step forward. You know, don't look at the back. When I tell them my story, you know, do you still believe in God after all that you have faced? I said, He's the only one that got through me all this, you know. I think I would have sunk, you know, if I didn't have God in my life. So I think God is a very a strong focal point for me to keep my focus, you know. Actually, in the very start, you know, when, to be honest, when Timothy was very sick, was my feelings towards Uncle Tony? Yeah, I was very angry with him. I actually hated him. I felt abandoned. Okay, really, I felt abandoned. You're my husband and you're not there by my side. You know, it was so frustrating. I had to deal with everything, you know, on my shoulders. And I had to even grieve alone. I had to feel sad by myself. You know, when I cry, you just stare at me. Why am I crying? I remember, you know, we were all supposed to say our goodbyes to Timothy, because we felt that he was hanging on, you know, like he wanted some kind of reassurance, you know. I keep telling him, Timmy, you're tired, you know, darling. If the angels come and call you, or if Mama comes, you know, I said, if Mama comes and calls you, just go to her, okay? You'll be fine, you know, Mommy and Daddy will be fine. So I told him, I said, Timmy, are you worried about Mommy and Daddy? You know, the situation with Mommy and Daddy, because now Mommy is very angry with Daddy. I said, don't worry, you know, whatever happens, I will always be there for Daddy. I will always look after your Daddy. You know, look at this. This is for always, you know. I said, just as you have been a part of us, right? Daddy is a part of us. I will never let go of our family, you know. I told him that. And it was like an answer, you know, to Timothy, you know. And it was very fast after that he passed on, you know. So I took it that, you know, I made that promise to Timothy, you know. And then after that, Uncle Tony got his diagnosis, you know. So it was like all fell together, you know. So I don't know, it's something I cannot comprehend whether it's true. Some people might some skeptics might say, oh, you just in your imagination, you're thinking it out. But when I put everything together, it just fell into place, you know. I wasn't going to detach myself from this responsibility. You know, I don't like it. I don't like being put in this position. But I guess if I don't do it, then who's going to do it? You know? And I guess there is still love, right, after all this time. Yeah.
Yeah, hold hands.